As they have reformed, we have done this. How is it that we have treated China, which has had no political reform, no liberalization, with such generosity? The totalitarian government of China is the world's worst human rights abuser. Those Chinese communists in power in Beijing see us as their natural enemy. They unmistakably are also a threat to Russia. Yet we still embrace that Chinese government, the world's worst human rights abuser. We fueled their economy, the Chinese economy. We have built their manufacturing base. We have enhanced their technological capabilities, even while simultaneously finding ways to continue hostility and non-cooperation with Russia, with one-way free trade policies with China, and credits, and investment in technology transfers. We've run up a massive trade deficit with China. $1 trillion has shifted from the American economy into Chinese coffers. And all this while, there hasn't been one opportunity for us to even get done the smallest bit of reform with our economic relationship with Russia. We weren't even able to bring ourselves to officially end the Jackson-Vanik restrictions, which were placed on Russia during the Cold War. 30 or 40 years ago. It is an insult and a sign of our own incompetence that we have not been able to lift the Jackson-Vanik restrictions on Russia, much less giving a reformed Russia a free trade agreement or most favored nation status, which we bestowed upon the world's worst human rights abuser, China. Again, restrictions and hostility on Russia, all of this while we give China every benefit, most favored nation status, tech transfers, capital investments. Well, this relationship with Russia, as well as our relationship with China, has been wrong-headed and gravely so. China, in stark contrast to the great changes in Russia, where there has been very visible political reform, where religion is not suppressed, where there are opposition political parties, and yes, there are... Look back, find out who was behind most favored nation status for China. Who was it? And it was during the Clinton administration that provided China should have permanent most favored nation status, so we didn't even get a chance to vote on it every year. No, it's both bipartisan. It was a bipartisan betrayal of American interest here. Who was watching out for the American people? Instead, we established a trading system with China, and I can tell you how it works. I represent the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach. You go right down there and you can see it. Of all the containers, and massive numbers of containers come in every day, tens of thousands, 90% are coming in and only 10% are going out. And almost all the ones coming in are coming from China. Well, China is not an economic partner. It's exploited us. It's taken advantage of our weaknesses. It's not a partner for peace, nor it is a partner for world stability. China has no reform and has not made reform of its political structure, and it is, unfortunately, our most likely future enemy. Those words are very hard for me to say. They are not our enemy now. They are our adversary. But it is clear that unless there is a significant political reform in China, a liberalization of their system, a recognition of fundamental rights, the dictatorship will continue in power and grow stronger. America's most likely future enemy we treat with special privileges. The Russians we treat like a pariah, even as they reach out to us, even after they have had incredible reforms and restructuring in their country. China is already a deadly economic competitor of our people and is openly hostile to the basic values which make us Americans, a respect for human rights, religious freedom, the environmental stewardship that we have taken upon ourselves in recent years. Our current relationship with China has resulted in an economic and security disaster for the United States of America. It is time to have the courage to admit this fact, and it is time to reverse poor decisions and bad policies. If the policies that have led us to this point are not reversed, the result will be national and, yes, global catastrophe. The world is dominated by a world dominated by an authoritarian-controlled China will be a far different world than the one we live in today. And again, we are talking about the government of China, a specific regime, not the Chinese people themselves. The Chinese people are hardworking, family-oriented people. I have tremendous sympathy and respect for them. They are, in fact, freedom's greatest ally, our greatest hope, potentially our greatest friends who can help us avert a conflict between our countries. The Chinese government, however, is a loathsome tyranny, a dictatorship, a dictatorial clique that has enslaved their own population, intent not just in controlling China, but also in dominating the rest of the planet. It is a government that, as I speak, is shooting down Muslim Uyghurs in East Turkestan, which is in the far regions of western provinces of China. They are similarly conducting a slow-motion genocide on the people of Tibet. It's a government that arrests and murders Falun Gong religious practitioners. And who are they? Who are the Falun Gong? Pay attention, America. Who are the Falun Gong? The Falun Gong want nothing more than religious freedom that they hold so dear. They are pacifists. And what do they believe in? They believe in yoga and meditation. Yet thousands of them have been picked up by the Chinese communist dictatorship and thrown into prisons. And oftentimes they never come out of those prisons. And too often we find that what is coming out of those prisons, the prisons where the Falun Gong members have been deposited, what do we see coming out of those prisons? Body parts. Body parts sold to Americans and other people as organs to be transplanted. Kidneys and other organs of the body that have been extracted from people who were put in jail for their religious convictions. And then they were murdered. That is the type of ghoulish regime that now controls the country of China and the Chinese people. In China, there are no unions, no workers' rights, no democratically elected environmental standards. There are no concerns about human rights or consideration for the inherent dignity of all humankind. There is no liberty, no independent judiciary, no freedom of the press, no rule of law, no opposition parties, no right to criticize the nature of their government or to criticize the clique that rules their country. 1 billion people are being held in bondage so that goods can be manufactured cheaply in China in an unholy relationship between very wealthy American and Western capitalists and the ghoulish dictators that control China. And with the one-way free trade that we've established, to which we have acquiesced, and the short-term profit desired by America's corporate elite, our country has been a partner. Considering those factors, our country has been a partner in building the Chinese economy into a monstrous threat, while at the same time weakening and destroying our own manufacturing base. Millions of our people are being put out of work. We're going through a huge financial crisis. One of the major elements that have brought us to this financial crisis has been a one-way free trade policy with communist China. The fact that they now have $1 trillion worth of our wealth and our manufacturing base has been destroyed should be of no surprise. It was predictable. And those of us who fought most favored nation status and said we've got to have some political reform, liberalization before we give such enormous economic power to a government, we were just bypassed and treated as if we didn't matter, because the business elite of our country wanted to have those massive short-term profits. Then they could give themselves bonuses and they could retire here, leaving the stockholders and leaving their own employees far worse off and in a horrible situation. And now the whole country is in a horrible situation. Over the last 2 decades, we have built China from a relatively backwards economy into a Frankenstein monster. And when I say we, I mean the policies of the United States government have lifted the economic capabilities of a country that has had no political liberalization, no political reform of their dictatorial system, and a country, yes, that is also engaged in rebuilding its military. And now this Frankenstein monster is slowly turning on its creator. Turning on us. Turning on us. Well, there is a China-related issue that is emerging. Not all the bad decisions were made in the past. We're about to make another bad decision by reversing one of the good decisions that we made that has really saved us